Those who know the right questions must reach those asking the wrong ones, and sometimes even the lost. I protect my identity because truth has a body count. Welcome to the Anarchist File. Do you ever see a guy swipe a credit card with confidence? Walk out of Best Buy like a king because he just financed a 70-inch screen and a soundbar he can T-spell? Yeah, that's not freedom, it's a leash. And he's grinning while it tightens. Welcome to adulthood, Kent, where the chains are invisible, the cell doors are unlocked, and no one's running. Not because they're free, but because they're entertained. This is the era of debt. Not like your grandpa's mortgage or your dad's car note. No, you were born into something different. Something optimized, streamlined, weaponized. Your slavery has branding now. Your cage has Wi-Fi. They don't need whips anymore. They've got monthly billing cycles. You got told debt is how you build credit, how you unlock opportunity, how you move forward in life. But here's what they didn't tell you. Debt is not a bridge. It's a loop, a treadmill. A rigged game where every step forward is already accounted for by someone else's balance sheet. They told you to go to college, so you did, and they handed you a six-figure IOU with a smile, and a career fair full of opportunities that pay less than your barista job. They told you to buy a car, so you did, and now you read $700 a month deep into something that depreciates faster than your attention span. They told you to get the card, take the trip, get the points, build the profile, because that's how adults live. No one told you adulthood was just a subscription to survival. And here's the thing, it's all packaged beautifully. Leather seats, degree frames, new countertops, vacations you can't afford, bought with money you don't have, to escape a life you can't stand, but hey, at least you've got access. What you really have is a leash, woven out of good intentions and compounding interest. And every time you think you're finally ahead, the leash pulls tight again. Interest, fees, minimum payments that never shrink, delayed dreams, wasted years. You've been sold a scam, but it doesn't feel like a scam. That's the brilliance of it, because it comes with customer service and app notifications and points rewards. It's not some thug with a bat, it's a banker with a grin, a lender with a laugh, a government that tells you, we'll help you borrow responsibly. As they pile another few trillion onto the national tab and mail you a check for $600. So before you keep sleepwalking into the next opportunity, let me show you what's actually happening. Because if you think you own your life, but every month, 40% of your take-home pay is already spoken for by people you've never met. You, Don T, own shit. Let's talk about debt, not the way your guidance counselor explained it. Not the TikTok finance bro selling budgeting spreadsheets. I'm talking about the truth. The cold, sharp, teeth-bared truth about how they turned an entire generation into polite little debt serfs with iPhones and Amazon Prime. And how you FVI got the balls to admit what's really happening can burn the leash before it hangs you. Let's go. They call it good debt. Cute as if putting good in front of debt magically turns it into something noble. Like it's spinach for your credit score. Like borrowing 40 grand at 6.8% for a diploma that qualifies you to run diversity trainings in an HR dungeon is somehow a brilliant investment. Let me be clear. There is no such thing as good debt when you read the product. And you're the product. The schools don't sell education. They sell compliance. And the banks, they sell hope. Structured, collateralized hope, sliced, packaged, and shipped to Wall Street to be securitized like pork bellies. You are not borrowing money. You are selling time. Future hours, years, life you haven't lived yet, all parceled out, priced at today's rates, and locked in by people who profit from your inability to think 20 minutes ahead. They don't need to enslave you if you'll sign the contract yourself. And they made damn sure you'd sign. They got you at 17, still living with your parents. No assets, no concept of what $80,000 in loans actually means. And they sold you the American dream with a FEFSA form and a brochure full of smiling diversity stock photos. Then boom, you're in. Freshman year, debt clock ticking, professors making six figures to teach outdated theory, administrators pulling in $300,000 a year to host wellness seminars and run Title IX tribunals. And you're getting fleeced, and it doesn't stop after graduation. Nah, the debt expands, grows legs, becomes normal. They've socialized it, everyone has it, everyone's in it. So what's the harm, right? You'll pay it off eventually, except you won't, because after the loans come the car notes, then the rent, then the phone plan, then the streaming, then the credit card, and the payments start to stack. Not just financially, psychologically, you start planning your life around them. You don't ask, what do I want to do? You ask, what job can I get to keep the bills from stacking up? You don't date freely. You don't move freely. You take what you can get. Because freedom requires margin, and debt destroys margin. It doesn't just rob your wallet. It robs your risk tolerance, your creativity, your ability to act without fear. You're not a man anymore. You're a balance sheet, and they've gamified it. Credit scores, APRs, payment histories. You think you're playing the game, but you're not the player. You're the asset, generating predictable returns. You are, in the purest economic sense, a yield-producing resource. And the sickest part? You smile through it. You post pics of your new apartment with the caption, "Blessed." You flash your new wheels on IG, ignoring the $645 payment and $129 insurance premium. You celebrate your credit limit increase like it's a promotion. They've made debt a status symbol. You're showing off your shackles. You're flexing your chains. And if anyone tries to tell you the truth, you scoff. Call it unrealistic. Say, that's just how it is. Bro, if how it is includes being one bad week away from default while pretending you rebuilding a life, maybe how it is broken, but you won't see that. Not yet, because the lie is warm. It's everywhere. Your friends believe it, your family preaches it, the media glorifies it, and the system profits from it. Because the longer you believe in good debt, the longer you stay predictable, safe, They don't need you bankrupt, they just need you busy. Busy chasing minimums, busy building credit, busy trying to outrun a treadmill they built to make sure your legs never stop moving. And when you collapse, there's a payday lender waiting around the corner with a grin and a pen. Debt doesn't just change your bank account, it rewires your instincts. You think you're just making payments? What you're really doing is internalizing limitations, shrinking your expectations, training your brain to avoid risk, avoid conflict, avoid life. Because you've got too much riding on that paycheck to even think about shaking the table. They've turned debt into a muzzle. You want to quit your job? Can't rents do? You want to start something risky? Forget it. Student loans don't pause because you have a dream. You want to take 6 months off to actually figure out who the hell you are? Cool. Tell that to the credit card company. They'll be happy to send collections to your parents' house. Debt makes men docile, tame, predictable, exactly how they want you. You stop thinking like a builder and start thinking like a borrower. You don't ask what's possible. You ask what's safe? You make decisions based on what you can afford right now, not what would make you powerful in 5 years. You become allergic to risk, because every risk threatens the fragile little stack of cards you've built just to exist. So you compromise, you settle, you date someone you don't respect, you take a job you hate, you move to a city you can't stand, all because your debt needs to be fed, and you've convinced yourself that stability is better than freedom. It's not. You aren't stable. You're just suspended like a puppet dangling from credit lines. Your next move determined by your FICO score and your employer's mood. You're not climbing, you're floating, until the strings snap. And this isn't accidental. This is psychological warfare. Because a man in debt doesn't revolt. He doesn't rebel. He doesn't speak up or push back or take swings at the people screwing him. He puts his head down. He works late, he swipes the card. He says thank you for the opportunity to survive. He becomes the perfect subject. They don't need prisons when they can build payment plans. They don't need force when they can offer financing. And the more you comply, the more they reward you. Higher credit limit, pre-approved offers. Congratulations, you qualify. Like a rat who's learned how to push the lever for dopamine and now gets cheese delivered via ACH, you call it adulthood? I call it domestication. You used to want greatness. Now you just want manageable. You used to dream in vivid color. Now you just want low AP. You used to feel fire in your chest. Now you just feel anxiety when the email subject line says statement ready. That's not life. That's sedation. And it gets worse. Because once you're deep enough in, you start defending it. You become the system's PR agent. You parrot their terms. You justify your own shackles. You attack anyone who tells you the truth. Because if they're right, that means you've wasted years. And nobody wants to admit they've been played. So you double down. You tell yourself you'll pay it off. You'll escape. You'll make it work. All while adding just one more card. One more loan. One more bite of the poison. Because you've already swallowed the lie whole. But deep down, you know something's off. You feel it? That low-grade dread. That quiet panic. That feeling that no matter how hard you work, something's wrong. Something isn't adding up. Something's bleeding your potential and selling it at a markup. You just haven't looked it in the eye yet. Because looking it in the eye would mean choosing something else. And that takes a kind of courage you haven't accessed yet. Not because you're weak, but because you've been conditioned not to try. They gave you the cage. Then they taught you to fear the door. The middle class is the greatest con ever sold. A mirage, a manufactured tier created not to elevate the poor, but to pacify them. To dress poverty in khakis and a leased SUV, to give you just enough comfort to stop you from burning it all down. It was never about wealth. It was about obedience. They needed a class of people, stable enough to function, but broke enough to fear disruption. People with just enough to lose, but never enough to walk away. People who think they own something because their name is on the loan agreement. You call it a mortgage. The bank calls it an income stream. You call it opportunity. They call it collateral. The middle class was built to serve two purposes: absorb inflation and secure the debt markets. That's it. You exist to be lent to. To take the loans, make the payments, shoulder the taxes, and thank the state for the privilege of pretending to be free. And here's the sick genius of it. They let you believe you earned it. You grind 40 hours a week, keep your credit score clean, never miss a payment, and what do you get? A house you technically don't own, a car you can't afford to repair, a job you can't afford to leave, a lifestyle held together with fixed rates and prayer, but you call it success. You hang diplomas on the wall. You drink Starbucks on the way to the cubicle. You post vacation pics financed at 19.99% interest. You believe you've made it because you're not broke, you're leveraged, you don't have cash, you have access, you don't have time, but you've got prime shipping. It's not wealth, it's performance art. And the audience, your peers, who are too busy acting out the same farce to notice. They re-clapping for a play, they re-stuck inside. You want to know how you know the middle class is fake? Look at what happens when they stop the music, when the interest rates spike, when the layoffs come, when the price of eggs doubles and the government hands out stimulus checks like monopoly money. Suddenly, that sturdy middle class crumbles like wet cardboard. Savings gone in weeks, credit maxed in months, default on the horizon, because it was never real. Just a stack of obligations, pretending to be security. You were never stable, you were just current on your bills, and the system likes it that way. Because as long as you think you're middle class, you'll defend it. You'll vote to preserve it, you'll fight for policies to keep the game going. Because to question it would be to question your entire identity, and they can't have that. They need the middle class to believe, to trust, to pay on time. That's why the government calls student loans investment, why banks call auto financing mobility solutions, why advertisers tell you that the perfect kitchen will finally make your life feel whole. They dress up your chains so you don't ask why they're so damn tight. And the result? A class of people who think they're redoing well because they're not underwater yet, who defend the very system that bleeds them because they're afraid the alternative might be worse. It wouldn't be, but you'll never find out if you keep pretending your chains are jewelry. You're not middle class. You're middle management in a debt plantation. And the sooner you admit that, the sooner you stop playing their game. You weren't just born into debt, you were born into someone else's tab. A national IOU passed down like a family heirloom, only instead of gold, you got liabilities. Instead of freedom, you inherited a balance sheet. The American dream, they called it, except the dream is collateralized, interest-bearing, and subject to collection. You start your adult life below zero, not because you did anything wrong, but because someone before you sold your future to fund their now. And now they expect you to smile through it, to say thank you, to call it opportunity. What it actually is, intergenerational theft. Boomers borrowed against her tomorrow and spent it on suburban sprawl, Netflix stock, and granite countertops. Then they looked at you, drowning in compound interest, gig work, and inflation, and called you lazy, entitled, ungrateful, as if you're struggling because you didn't work hard enough. As if the cost of living tripling while wages flatline is just a coincidence. As if the Fed printing trillions and your rent doubling in 18 months is just bad luck. No, you're not unlucky. You're the harvest, the yield crop of a society that lives on debt and pretends the math will fix itself. You're not poor because you're reckless. You reap poor because your starting line was 6 miles behind the people lecturing you about fiscal responsibility, and they built systems to keep it that way. Student loans, undischargeable. A prison with a diploma. Your degree's worth less every year, but your payments stay the same. Even bankruptcy won't save you. It's one of the only debts in the system without immunity, because they need it to be inescapable. It's not just a loan, it's a leash. Want to buy a house? Too bad? BlackRock already bought your block with cash, while you were still trying to get pre-approved at 7.9%. Interest with a debt-to-income ratio that makes underwriters laugh. Want to start a business? Better be ready to risk it all because credit markets won't touch you without assets. And you can't get assets without credit? It's circular by design. The gates are closed. The ladder's pulled up. The only thing left open is the debt window. And that's where they want you. Perpetually servicing. Forever paying. Every dollar you earn already earmarked for someone else. They don't want you defaulting. That's bad for optics. They want you just solvent enough to keep the payments coming. Minimum payment culture. Debt rotation. Refinance rituals. You're not climbing out. You're orbiting. And the sickest part? They convinced you it's your fault. Can't buy a house? Should have saved more? Struggling with loans? Should have picked a real major? Living paycheck to paycheck? Budget harder? It's not a broken economy, they say. It's you. Your choices? Your spending? Your lifestyle? They reframe systemic robbery as personal failures, so you internalize the shame, you self-police, you censor, you stay quiet. No one asks why the system demands a 19-year-old take on mortgage-sized debt for a degree that doesn't guarantee employment. No one questions why wages have flatlined while asset prices have expanded. No one points out that the people screaming fiscal responsibility are $28 trillion in the hole and still voting for more. Instead, we get advice. Make coffee at home. Stop eating out. Live within your means. All from the same people who inflated your rent, gutted your currency, and offshored your job to boost quarterly earnings, then told you to be grateful for your DoorDash side hustle. It's a scam, and they know it, but they also know you won't do anything because you can't. That's the final form of this debt system. Not just extraction, not just management, but immobilization. Debt that paralyzes, that keeps you from moving, from building, from fighting. Try starting a movement when you've got 3 jobs. Try organizing resistance when your Wi-Fi bill's late and your kid needs brassas. Try unplugging from the system when your health insurance is tied to your employer, who's tied to a corporate debt obligation, which is tied to the bond market, which is tied to the interest rate manipulated by unelected bankers who don T and pretend to care about you. That's not freedom. That's a simulation of it. You are free to choose which brand of leash you wear. You are free to pick your chains. Platinum, gold, titanium, whatever matches your lifestyle. But you're not free to leave. Not unless you break the script. Not unless you question the game. And most don't. Most stay plugged in. They finance the wedding. They finance the honeymoon. They finance the baby, the SUV, the couch, the house, the backyard, the divorce, the funeral, cradle to grave, serviced, leveraged, owned. And when it's over, they pass the bill to the next one down the line. Call it family tradition. You were born into a cage, but the door's wide open. Always has been. That's what makes it beautiful. That's what makes it sick. Because they didn't need locks. They used convenience, status, comfort. Debt became the velvet rope, and you lined up for it. You signed, you smiled, you thanked them for the opportunity. And they've been collecting ever since. Your labor, collateralize. Your ambition, lease. Your future, monetize not by force, not by threat, but by suggestion. Subtle, polished, normal. It's all normal, right? The debt, the stress, the silent shame, the anxiety you pretend is caffeine, the 28-year-old part of you that still doesn't feel like a man, because how could you? How do you feel powerful when your paycheck disappears before it even clears? That's not a life. That's not growth. That's management. Financial livestock with a fitness app and a LinkedIn profile. You think you're building a future, but the foundation is paper. Printed by people who don't know your name, don't share your interests, and don't care if you drown as long as the payments go through. But here's the truth. You can walk. Not tomorrow. Not all at once. But you can opt out. You can unplug. You can stop playing by rules written by cowards who decollapse if they ever had to earn $1 outside a rigged system. So that's what's in the game. Debt is an opportunity. It's obedience. Every great deal is a leash. Every easy approval is a new handler. Every time you swipe the card and tell yourself I'll catch up next month, you are delaying the confrontation with the fact that your life isn't yours yet. You want freedom? Build it. Stack cash. Stack skills. Stack leverage. Kill your debts like they insulted your bloodline. Own assets. Control your income. Turn your name into a brand and your brand into a machine. And never ever confuse liability with legacy. The system will never reward you for escaping. There's no applause when you break the loop. No trophy when you hit zero and start building for real. But there is clarity. There is peace. There is power in knowing you owe no one. Because that's the goal. Not wealth, not status, not even comfort. The goal is sovereignty. And sovereignty starts the moment you stop borrowing your life from people who would trade it for a yield curve. So walk, cut the leash, and don't look back. The story isn't over. This was the Anarchist File.